And welcome to Flexible Games, where today we are going to cover how to create a mod for Alpha 17, 7 Days to Die. The modding system has improved substantially, and today I want to cover as much as possible, trying to answer all of the questions. There's a very good forum thread that does, a great job describing things. But I know a lot of people out there are more visual learners, and I'm hoping to get everything covered here. If you have any questions, then let me know in the comments or check out the forums, the game modding forums. There is a big thread for XPath modding. All right, getting into it here, we're going to create a simple mod for the tutorial. I've got my main mod here that's got lots and lots and lots of changes in it, but that might overwhelm some people, so we're going to leave that to the end and how to change and tweak some things, maybe in a mod that you've downloaded that you may not agree with all of the changes that are done. You can customize it to your play style. So the first things first, we're going to create a new folder and we're going to name this mod tutorial. Just like that. In this, we're going to want a modinfo.xml. It's easier just to copy one that's there and then edit it later. So in the modinfo.xml, you'll see this XML root node and this mod info and then name, description, author, version, website. So, this is going to be Flexible Games mod tutorial, and this is just something getting started. Oh, that's got a lot of T's in it. Getting started with modding. And link to this mod specifically will be in the video description. All right, so we have the modinfo.xml. This basically is done. There's no more to it. And we're going to go back to the directory. In here, we're going to want a new folder, naming this config. The config folder will hold all of our modded XML settings. Okay, so first things first, we need to decide what we want this mod to do. And I'm going to try to cover all of the different things that you can do and, make it work, basically. Make it work. Okay, so how about we add a recipe? That sounds like a great idea. Let's add a recipe. So if we go to the 7 days install folder, so Steam apps common, 7 days to die, and then data, and then config, these are all of the vanilla XMLs that are huge and have lots and lots of stuff. If we're going to add a recipe, we need to check out the recipes XML. So get yourself Notepad++. It's a free, it's easy, it works really, really well. You're gonna want a good editor. Okay, so if we want to add a recipe, we don't need to edit this file at all. So we're gonna create a new file, and we're gonna need to describe XML a little bit. Think of XML as a sort of directory structure. Okay, you've got, ignore this up here. This is the question mark, this little symbol, that's irrelevant. Think of these as directory structures. Okay, so your recipes is your root directory. Well, I'm gonna call them nodes. Okay, so this is your root node. Inside of that are daughter nodes. If we collapse this node here, this is a great feature in Notepad++. It basically takes the entire file and squishes it. It's 3,700 lines inside this. That's the root node, okay? Now all of these recipes in here are basically just flat branches off of that root node. That is important. It is very important you know how these things are structured. So let's add a simple arrow that uses plastic instead of feathers. I mean, it's a why would you do that? I don't know. But, you know, the vanilla files give you a good starting point. So we're going to copy this recipe and we're going to go to our new file. This is where we're going to put the mod. Okay, this is the modded file. This is going to go in config, etc. You need a root node in all of your XML files for your mod. They do not need to be the root. They do not need to be the nodes from here. And my practice has been to name them what mod I'm working on. So mod tutorial / mod tutorial, there's your root node. Now we can save that, and we can save it all the way back out here. Programming, 7 days, alpha 17 mods, mod tutorial, config. This needs to be saved as the same name as the XML you are trying to edit. So we're going to name this recipes.xml. And that will immediately color the text because it now sees this as an XML file. So we want to add a recipe that's stone. Not stoned, but rather, oh, I wish it did that. Okay, so we want arrow stone recipe, rock small wood, but we don't want feathers, we want plastic. And you can do search, Control F for polymer. Okay, so resource scrap polymers, that's your plastic. They did rename everything in the game for Alpha 17 because they no longer use ID numbers. And so yeah, food, drink, resource, various things. Plastic happens to be now scrap polymers. So instead of the resource feather, we're going to want resource scrap polymers. So basically this will give you one arrow from one rock, one wood, and one scrap polymer. But we're not done yet. We need to tell it where this goes. And this is where we get into the custom, what we have to do to get this to work. So we're going to use the append tag. This is an XPath tag, and we're going to need to go into recipes, which is your root node, okay? And we need to change that to /append. So this /recipes gets us into this root node. So it goes into the file, into this root node, and then we're in here. And append will just append it before this tag, before it ends the recipes tag. It will append it right in this space in memory. This is all done in memory, so no files are actually changed permanently. Okay, so this append XPath /recipes takes this content and tacks it onto the bottom of this file. That essentially adds the recipe for for making arrows out of scrap polymers. Now, if you want to create more than just one type of arrow, obviously you're going to need more more entries, and you can just add another recipe down here. The name here is actually what it crafts, and obviously the count is how many it crafts at a time. So you can add all the recipes you want just between two appends. That's all you need to do. Append here, /append, and then all of your new recipes inside. So that takes care of the append command. Now there are other types of tags that we can use. So let's get a little bit more specific. You know, if you want to practice this process, it's the same for, say, an item. So if we want to add an item, let's save this as, It's going to save it in my right directory. I'm going to save this as items. And we're going to take all of this between appends and take this out. Now we're on a different XML. So let's look at 7 days here. And we are now in items.xml. These are all comments is grayed out. This tag here, the less than exclamation point dash dash, comments out everything between that and the dash dash greater than sign. So that's your comment. It's a multi-line or single line comment. It's just, that's all it is. So all of this is nonsense. This items, that is your root node. Okay. So in our area here, we need to change this to items. Now it will take all of the content between this and that, and it will append it before this tag right here. It will put it right in here, adding the item to the game. So, you know, it's really nice. It's so smooth on how it works. So you can add a new item here all you want. If I want to take an example, I can use my weed cleaver. So I'll go in here, look at this code. There's a lot of stuff in here. We'll get to that in a bit. That's the quick axe. There's the weed cleaver. So I'm going to take this tag to that tag. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to put it in my new line here. So that is a new item right there. But we need a recipe for this item. We actually need a recipe. Otherwise, it won't be craftable. So we go to recipes. Where's my recipes at? Recipes. Open. Recipes. There it is. Depends on which tab you have or which item you have here. Open. So I'm going to close that out. So we can add a new recipe in here for the weed cleaver. Use the same name that you use here. So weed cleaver, this is the key to get to this item. So let's just copy this recipe, paste it here, and we're going to copy weed cleaver, paste it there. And I would like resource, well, let's make it, if we look at other recipes, I'm sure we can find, there it is, resource forged iron. So let's make it forged iron. Let's make it like 10 forged iron and maybe 5 wood, and there you go. Now the weed cleaver is craftable because we just did all of this. So we got 10 forged iron and resource wood makes our new item the weed cleaver, which we append using the XPath/items. So all of this code goes in there. The key to the weed cleaver is actually, if anybody's curious, attacks per minute. Attacks per minute I set at 300. So you can cruise. You can cruise through the lovely grass on the ground. Block damage is very low. Entity damage is nil. The range is pretty high, so you know it works really well. The weed cleaver now works really well. Okay, and it's just a copy of. I'm pretty sure it's just a copy of certain things. I think I copied the. I'm pretty sure I copied the machete. Yeah, it uses the machete. So I basically copied and pasted the machete and kind of changed some things around. It just takes a little bit of kind of muddling through. I mean, it's all pretty self-explanatory, all this sort of stuff. But we'll get into that. That's a little deeper than I wanted to get into right now. Now, we need an icon for the weed cleaver. Otherwise, it's going to have an empty icon. So let's set up an icon for this. let's go to our mod tutorial folder where the config is. We're going to add a new folder, and we're going to name this item icons, like that. And I'm going to grab my weed cleaver graphic, and I'm going to throw it in there. Notice the name is exactly the same as the definition of the weed cleaver. That's how it uses the icon. That's the most simple and easiest way to do it. And the file itself, 116 by 80, it's a transparent 32-bit PNG file. So if we go in here, details, bit depth 32, 116 by 80. Pretty straightforward. Okay, so now our little tutorial mod here has the weed cleaver and an arrowstone recipe. Once you have a handle on that and you can bounce back and forth and see all of that stuff and get used to it and get familiar with it, now we're going to go into a little bit more advanced stuff. Okay, so we've covered the append tag really well. Now we want to get into something a little bit more advanced. So let's just pick something, and let's see. How about let's just jump somewhere into the file, and let's see. Bandana, denim pants. Let's just let's look at aloe cream. Aloe cream only stacks to 20, and I don't like that. I don't want aloe cream to only stack to 20. I want it to stack higher. So how do we change this property within this item inside the items.xml? Let's go back to our mod tutorial. I'm going to collapse this append tag because we are done with that. So we're going to add some more lines here, and we're going to do set now, and we're going to set with an XPath, and this is where we get into a little bit more advanced stuff. So I need to set an item, so we're going to do /items. That's your root node. Remember, you always want to have your root node in there, and this is an actual item. Okay, which is this tag right there. But there are lots and lots of things with that tag. This one happens to have a specific name. And how you do that, how you set that, is thusly. You have a bracket. You take this tag right there. That's an attribute right there. That's an attribute of this tag, is name. And you do an at name equals, and then single quotes, and you copy that, paste it inside. That gets you this specific item. We are now in this item, but we're not done because this is a specific property within that specific item. So we then need to do /property, and this property that we want to set is called stack number. It has the attribute name called stack number. So we want to do bracket at name equals single quotes, and then we copy this and paste it there. But what we want to actually set is the value attribute. Okay, this value is what we want to set. So we then need to do a /@value, and that gets us this exact value that we can change, which we can set to 500, and then you do a /set like that, and that finishes that entire line. Go into items, get me the item with the name medical aloe cream. Inside of that, get me the property with the name stack number, and I want to change the value. There is another way that we can set this. If this is a little abstract, there is a version of this that we can use. Let's find another one that we can set. How about medical bandage? Medical bandage only stacks to 10. This one, we're going to use the set attribute. Okay, XPath is nearly the same. Items, item, with the name of medical bandage, with the property name, oh, let's spell it right. Spelling is important. With the name stack number. Okay, but instead of doing the value, we're going to close that and we're going to do name equals value. And we're going to set that to 500. Okay, so basically this set attribute, actually we need to set attribute. There we go, that's better. You always want to, always want to bind your tags, okay, always. Set attribute, you specify the attribute that you want to set. So these two lines do basically the same thing. They set the stack number to 500. They just do it a little bit differently between the two. But they both work. I mean, they both do exactly what we want. Now, if you want to set a lot of things to be a high priority, okay, you want, let's say you want everything medical to have the same stack number. Okay, you notice that they prepend the names medical on all of the medical stuff. Okay, now there's other things in here with various naming schemes. Medical is pretty much down the line. Medical splint, medical plaster cast, medical blood draw kit, medical. So everything is medical that we may want to change. Obviously, there are exceptions. Be very careful. So drugs is different than medical. So if we want to set blanket, if we want to blanket set all of these, right? So let's go in here. And we want, instead of doing each individual, we could set every single, we could have dozens and dozens of lines in here, setting all of the medical stuff to a you know, stack number of 500. Let's say we want to do all medical and all drugs. Everything gets that stack number. XPath actually is phenomenal at this, because if you don't specify in unique items, it will look at everything with that tag. So first, items is obviously the root path that we want. Okay, item is what we need to set. However, in here, we don't want just one item. We want all items. There's a contains. This is going to be name. Actually, it's name. There we go. And we want this to be medical. Okay. And then that closes that off. I have one too many. There we go. Item contains name medical. So it's going in here and saying which names have the word medical in them. Okay. Then we can do /property and name stack number /at value 500. Set. So using this up here as an example, this down here will get all of the items that have medical in the name and sets their stack number to 500. With that, we don't actually need either of these, because those are going to be taken care of. So let's set the stack number to anything that is a drug, like that. So that takes all medical, and we can individualize it. We could say maybe 250 instead. So it'll go through and it'll find medical and then eventually drug. And it will set all of these stack numbers. You know, drug recog, drug fort bytes, food honey, and food. So food is another one that we could set. So I'm just trying to show you that there's a way to do it generically. There's also a way to do it in the entire file. If you want everything in the entire file to have a set stack number. Now be careful with this. Let's do small. Rock small? Yeah, rock small. Let's check rock small. Rock small. There it is, resource rock small. So be careful with this because it will override even these that have 6,000 as their stack number. So we could do set XPath items item property name stack number value. Okay, and we could set this to say 10,000, or let's do 8,000. 30,000, by the way, is the max. You don't want to do anything over that. So what this is, it's a generic tag. It's a generic XPath that goes into items. It goes into each and every item. It traverses every single item. If it contains the property called stack number, it will change its value to 8,000. This line will set every stack number for every item to 8,000. Like I said, it's a very dangerous way of doing things because you don't know what sort of shenanigans you'll get up to. So, yeah, snowballs, 8,000. Acid, 8,000. Everything that has this stack number property will get set to 8,000. So be careful with that. And in point of fact, if you guys are going to download this, I'm going to comment out exclamation point dash 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 greater than. Okay. I'm going to comment this out because it is too dangerous. But as an example, that's what that does. Items, item, property, stack number, value. That single line will change every item in the game to have an 8,000 stack number. Not ideal. All right, we've covered set. We've covered append. There is a remove as well. So let's go through here and say, okay, how about, let's see. What's a good thing to remove? A lot of times you don't want to remove stuff, but it is in here if you want. So let's see. If there's a remove, there's not many things to change here. But as another example, let's do one more example of a set command. And this shows like really, I really want to drive this home. This is the meat and potatoes of modding with 7 days. Okay, so we're going to do set XPath equals items item name, and I want suit pants. inside of here, I want to change these hypothermal and hyperthermal. I want to change these. So instead of property, we're not going to do property. We did property up here. Down here, those are in a tag called effect group. Okay, we want that tag in here. This doesn't really have a name. We could say if tiered equals false, but it's the only effect group inside of suit pants. It's the only one in here. We don't need to name it. Inside of here, there is a passive effect tag, which does have a name. So we're going to go in here and go hypothermal resist. And this has a value. Okay. And this value is 6. Let's make that 10 set. And we're going to copy, paste, and we're going to do hyperthermal, paste that there. So this will go into items. It'll find the item with suit pants, find the effect group, the passive effect named hypothermal resist, set that to 10. Then it'll do suit pants, do the same thing. Hyperthermal resist, set the value to 10. And there you go. You've now set suit pants to be a little bit better to wear, and you're good. You're all good. So that takes care of a huge amount of modding that we can do in the game. There are other tags, like I said, remove is one of them. So there's honestly so little things that you want to remove that, you know, just flat out remove. So let's go in here and set night vision goggles. Yeah, there's just nothing to do with this. But basically the remove tag, XPath, and we just do a slash greater than there, and that clears the tag. You do not need, this is the same as this. Okay, nothing really ever goes in between here, like, you know, like we do with value. We actually have to set that value. With remove, there is none of that, so you don't have to do that. Just slash greater than, it closes the tag out. This would clear every item in the game. It would delete every item. We don't want to do that. Okay, don't do that. That's a bad thing to do. Don't want to do that. Let's look at my mod and see what all this thing does. So if you download my mod, it has a lot of config options in there. There's a lot of stuff that this mod does. It was made over a 2-week period. Lots and lots of things that we did. Lots of changes. You know, it adds a few tools. You know, just all around, it's a great mod. If you want to go in and poke around and see all of the little things and how it's done, I would highly recommend you do that. Just go in here and open these up, and you can look at all of the different tags at work. So if we go into loot, set XPath, loot containers / loot group, name dies, count 3. So I changed this to basically give you more than one die at a time. The append, I add to the loot containers loot group dies, I add the mod die that I put in. Okay, so it adds to that loot. So this custom pink color die has a chance to show up when you actually find dies. So here's append and remove. Here's an example of remove. remove loot container ID 73/item. This is a change to the boss dropped loot containers. For some reason, I think that the game still hasn't done it. They haven't gone through a lot. But this 73 is the boss labeled loot container. I could go into the 7 days to die config files, go to loot. You can see loot containers is the base. There's a loot probability templates. There's a loot quality templates. There's another loot quality and another. And here are the loot groups. Okay, so if we follow this track, we want the loot containers. So loot groups, not really a concern. Let's see. Loot containers. A lot of loot groups in here. And if we go down, this eventually changes into loot containers. It's weapons test, all of those. Okay, here we go. Loot containers. You see these have an ID. If we go down to 73, which is a ways. 70. Oh, we're getting close. So 73 is entity loot container boss. Rare random drop-off bosses. All it has is junk. That's all they drop is junk. And I was like, that has got to change. So I add, append, some really high level stuff with different probabilities. So quest, a lot of that stuff I append to that loot container. And then I remove the junk. No chance for junk, chance for good stuff because they're bosses. They're the toughest zombies in the game. I tweak the count. And I changed the loot quality template to treasure template, which gives you a better chance at higher quality loot. So all of that is done in that one file and with very few lines. It's an elegant modding system. I am very, very happy with it. And every file is like that. If you go to Biomes, one thing I did is I documented everything. Okay, everything has a comment in blocks. So, I increase the generation of the precious minerals. I remove gravel from the world generation. So I change Terra ore gravel plus iron to Terra ore iron. I remove gravel using the set attribute feature. Okay, and then I added potatoes with a very small probability to the pine forest. And you can go through and follow my XPath and find those. The final thing I want to mention about modding, and this trips up a lot of people. Your root nodes cannot start with a number. Do not start with a number. It will error out and it will not load the mod. So don't start with a number. That's basically all you need to know. The link to my main mod and this mod tutorial mod will be available in the description. I encourage you to crack open my mod and to check out all of the little tweaks, all of the changes that I do in here. Some of these things are commented out because beta 208 that was released a couple weeks ago actually changes some things. So I released a new version and took out some things, or at least commented them out. They're still in there, but you can see how things change over time. So if you open entity groups, you can see this was a fix for the radiated zombie vulture because it caused huge problems on servers, and I didn't need it anymore, so I commented it out, but I left the file in there just in case I wanted to go in here at a later date and tweak some things. It doesn't hurt anything that this is empty. All right, well, this went on for a long time. Let me know if this helped you at all, and leave any comments or questions down below in the comments section, and join my Discord if you have more advanced questions. I am more than willing to help everybody figure this out and get the most out of your game. So that's going to do it for this episode and this tutorial. I thank you all for watching. Please hit that like button if you got something out of it. And yeah, I'll see you next time.